welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Phoenix Rising, 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Canna Bear, Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, Ben White, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
It's before the show. Great pre-show.
Well, everything's gone wrong, Neil. My computer's dying. I spent an entire day trying to get it to stop flashing, and I thought I'd won. So I posted a little members-only video that was about 20 seconds long with it not flashing. After fiddling and cleaning and cleaning, you name it. I just messed around for an entire day. Now I have been messing around for about the last month and a half trying to figure out the problem on and off for an hour at a time, and then you give up. Whereas literally I spent the entire day doing it, thought I'd won, came in this morning, nothing, not only was it still flashing, nothing worked. I've only just managed to cobble the show together, like you say, with four. I didn't realise it was so late. You lose track of time when you're trying to fix issues. So yeah. Okay, we've got a 4-minute pre-show. I'm glad you've told me because I wasn't actually aware. I was going to slope off and make a coffee. But there we go. I won't be doing that then.
Well, instead of that, why don't you give us a number on what it takes to get you up right?
I don't know, Neil. I don't know what the issue is. I suspect it's just a graphics card that's broken because as soon as the thing starts to heat up or be put under load, it goes wrong. But yet when you put it under a heavy load with a lot of airflow from the fan, then it seems to be okay. Well, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense that it would be the graphics card, because it wouldn't, in my mind, it shouldn't go wrong under a low load, but it does. Medium load, let's call it 50% load. Well, I've got the actual figure here. Where is it? 28% at the moment. Not a great massive load, but sure enough, it just flashes like crazy. Well, after a bit of research, I do suspect it is just the video RAM on the graphics card starting to die, because what I'm seeing has got a name. I called it screen tearing. It's not. It's called artifacting. Well, what's happening is the graphics card memory doesn't know what to do with certain... It's not enough to crash the program, but enough to present visual artifacts on the screen that you don't want, i.e. it flashing and throwing up things that are supposed to be on a different layer. It doesn't know how to process the data correctly, so it means the memory in the graphics card, I suspect, is corrupted. But until I'm absolutely certain of that, I don't want to just chuck money at it. There's no point. But there we go. That's just the way it is.
So is that like the computer having like Alzheimer's?
Yeah, I suppose so. It doesn't know what to do. It doesn't know how to process the information in its memory correctly. But it processes it all the same and gives it you. It just gives it you incorrectly. If it was a bit mining, if it was doing Bitcoin mining, when it's doing those calculations, it would be getting the sums wrong.
Bit like a Glober, like.
Well, does not compute syntax error in that regard.
Yeah.
I was about to ask you if you could get it to give you a curved adjacent.
If I could get it to stop flashing, I'd be happy. Especially as like I say, made a members-only video going, I've won! Look at me, I'm so ace, I've done it! After a day of fiddling. No, I hadn't. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Arwin, 10th Man. I think that's Brian's Logic trying to join. Yes, it is. Neil, Refracted Curvature. Don't think I missed anybody. And a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Yeah. Let's get it going, baby.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good morning.
Good morning, good afternoon, welcome wherever you may be. I'm going to get us rocking and rolling with the housekeeping, and I'm hoping that maybe anybody's actually on a mic, not out and about on the road. 10th, I'm looking at you. Can carry on with the housekeeping just so I can get a drink. So, although I have been sat in front of this computer for the last hour, there's only about a 3-minute pre-show because the computer's dying on its arse, and I've just managed to cobble it back together and get it working and get it actually functioning for the show, which I'm pleased with. But yeah, I need a drink. I'm absolutely frazzled. So, any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Negative.
We have the black one.
I've never seen it.
Well, it exists in the model, but then again, the model is really based off a flat plane. So,
Well, ships are supposed to be. Go on.
The Greeks knew it couldn't be curved.
Well, they measured it flat.
They were measuring flat angles back then.
Yeah.
Right angle, triangles.
I mean, to speak to either their flat-out stupidity or their understanding that what they were doing was measuring a flat plane, because that's precisely what they were doing.
In fact, all the instruments for navigation that were used for astronomy in that genre were all angle measuring devices. So there was nothing, because you can't have anything that could measure an angle from a curved baseline. So all you have to do is go back to the tools at whichever century that you want to research, whether it's the Jacob staff, the back staff, the cross staff, the octant, the quadrant, the astrolabe. It's all going to lead to angle measuring devices which need a baseline.
Well, you can't do any astronomy of any kind without using angles and the celestial sphere model. So flat Earth. But if you want to know if there's any evidence of a geometric horizon, Wolfie supposedly has filmed the geometric horizon.
Oh, really?
A recent video. Yeah. Now, it's just the same rubbish as him and all the rest of them were pumping out for years. And they stopped pumping it out after 2020 because, they started claiming the horizon was not geometric. But he has a video out now, and he's claiming that it's Earth curve, which means he's claiming a geometric horizon. What a twat.
Oh, dear.
Wait a minute, that's nothing new. They've always said there was Earth curve, except you could never see it.
Yeah, well...
Not expected to see.
Yeah, but now you can.
Yeah, but
No.
as soon as one of them refers to the curve calculator, then they're claiming a geometric horizon. And every one of them refers to that. Because there is no refracted horizon nonsense in the curve calculator. There is only a geometric horizon. So,
Yeah, that's true. So can you reestablish what he actually said a little bit more clear then?
Yeah, he claimed he was filming Earth curve.
He was filming Earth curve.
Yeah, filming Earth curve. Now,
So what has
Was
he
he
got? Some
pissed?
footage of.
So what has he got? Some footage of things disappearing, bottom up, and he says that's Earth curve?
yeah, it's like from a lower down position, he can't see all of an island, and when he goes up higher, he can see more of it. And it's total nonsense. Like what he's actually filming is a thing called tsunami wave shoaling that happens off of Western Australia, but he's calling it Earth curve. It's 2017 nonsense. That's what
Yeah,
it is.
we've been through this.
Well, he's
Well, I was just
claiming-
going to say that.
Yeah, but that's where they're at. It's quick, go backwards in time, and start claiming a geometric horizon again.
Well, then in the Black Swan, when there is no shoaling, it's not where it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
That's correct. Yeah.
You can do a bit more housekeeping? 10th? Any chance?
Yeah, that's fine. I can go over there. Any evidence of Earth radius, the R value?
Nah.
It only exists in
That's
the
one
math
again.
that was originally derived from a flat plane.
Discord, you had something to say?
You're going to need a flat plane in order to get the radius from.
Any more? Anybody?
Well, it was measured
I can
flat.
get the radius to my snooker table.
No flat plane, no radius.
What-
It's
what
that
do you say?
simple. No flat plane, no radius.
All right, Brian, you were trying to say something.
Yeah, there was two of them measured. The dual radii, both radii were measured, and they were measured off a flat plane.
You want to go into that a little bit?
Well, elevation angles to Polaris. You see, the globe, it has to match the sky. It has to match what we see in the sky. So elevation angles to Polaris was the reason. Like they used elevation angles to Polaris to gain the polar radius, and off of that, then the equatorial radius had to be what that was, because they had no choice, because to make the angles to Polaris work in the way they wanted it to work meant that the polar and equatorial radii had to be what they were, or what they claimed to be.
So the angle measurements were based on how Polaris, it would be at 90 degrees, their zenith, if they were directly under it. And as they moved away from it, it would be lowering in the sky due to perspective and eventually hit zero. And that's a full 90, correct?
Yes, exactly, yes. And they based their polar radius off of that. But because of the way it has to work, I cannot give a certain explanation here, because I can't show it. I'm not in a position to show it. But it has to match what they see in the sky. And the only way to make it match is to have a dual radii. That's the polar radius be what it has to be. And because that has to be what it has to be, that means the equatorial radius has to be what that has to be. They can't be even any way bigger or smaller, have to be exactly that, because they're all based off of the celestial sphere model, and in particular elevation angles to Polaris.
So would you say that's the reason why they have zero at the equator line in the globe model, and anything above is up to plus 90, anything below is to a minus 90?
Well, yeah, exactly. That's why the distance from the equator line to what would be the north, or geographic north, or the North Pole, or whatever, is 5,400 nautical miles. Exactly.
Yeah. Good work there. All right, moving on. Any evidence of axial rotation, Earth-based variety?
Well, you have people like Wolfie 6020 who was claiming to make corrections for a Coriolis effect that is purely a visual effect from the surface of Earth. So, no, there's no evidence.
I
whatsoever.
heard a Glober one time declare that he had to correct his steering wheel for Coriolis deviation.
Yeah, that's Bob the Science Guy.
Yeah,
And
but he's on the
Marvel.
ground.
You're going to need art for that.
Very good. So it's a not actual deflection, right? That he's correcting for.
Yeah, and you can't correct for it while you're driving on the ground. You're not in a separate reference frame.
You can't correct for an optical illusion.
Yeah, but if you're on the ground, you're connected to the earth. It wouldn't matter how fast the earth or how much the earth was or wasn't spinning. It wouldn't matter. You would not observe the Coriolis effect. It would be nothing to... there'd be no observation anyway in the first place. And secondly, you don't have to correct for an apparent deflection.
Arwin, what car was it? Was it a Toyota Coriolis?
Good one.
Yeah,
Good
Toyota
one.
Coriolis.
There we go. The SE model.
The SE, the luxury model, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but hold on a second. But there is, Coriolis is real, just not Earth-based Coriolis, correct?
Or the
Correct.
effect is real. It's just we don't observe it from the surface of Earth because we're not rotating.
All right. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Now, this is one I got to tell you a story about because I had Nathan's show playing yesterday. I didn't realize that I had my headphones on, but I didn't realize it was coming through the Bluetooth on the car. And my son Jacob had a meltdown. Gravity is real. Just because we can't prove it or we can't do anything with it, nobody can explain it, it's because it's God. It's God that's gravity. He was losing his mind, and I was like saying, Jacob, relax. I'm tired of this. I really felt bad for him. They just went over so many things I couldn't even deal with them. Celestial navigation is done from the stars. You don't need the earth. What's wrong with you people?
Does he realize he sounds very religious?
It's exactly the only thing I said. I said, Jacob, you sound like a zealot right now. He will not look at any information that 10th Man has put out. He won't listen to any show, but he wants to speak on it. So I felt bad for him.
This is going back to last week's show and previous, where they're trying to make the ether something equally unseen, unprovable, and it's this they call it Newman, the divine energy. They can't prove it, so they got to make up things.
Correct. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Ether to the flat earthers is like refraction to the ballers. So the flat earthers just want to think ether.
Brian, you were going to say something?
No, just that gravity is basically. One moment.
Anyone else? Well, he's
gravity is. Sorry about that. Gravity is. Gravity would mean that everything is going down. Everything is not going down. So then you have to add in that gravity was causing buoyancy, which is the rubbish. Buoyancy is Archimedes' principle, right? So they had to steal. They had to hijack. They had to hijack buoyancy to add it into their everything going down thing model because everything is not going down. Do you know what I mean? So there's a medium.
Going down where, Brian? Going down where in their model?
Well, in their model, everything is going into in the model. Well, it's all convoluted because it's all old gravity. It's not gravity anymore, is it? But old gravity, let's call it. Everything was supposedly being pulled towards the center of a globe in their model. But then some things weren't. So that meant they had to hijack Archimedes' principle. It's total nonsense.
So when you say old gravity, why are they speaking like it's alive again? What is gravity? Define gravity in their current model.
In the current model, gravity is an effect caused by the uneven distribution of mass curving space and time.
Okay, let me ask you a question with that. So does that mean that they're saying that's what keeps people on Earth, or is this the old gravity that they're saying keeps people on Earth? Because that's what my son was saying yesterday.
No, the people on Earth thing has nothing to do with Einstein's relativity. There is no weight involved in that. Gravity has nothing to do with weight in that model. So there was no weight in Einstein's relativity model. There is also there was no accounting for two masses. So within his 10 Einstein's 10 field equations, there is no way to account for more than one mass. And you can't change any one of these field equations without affecting all the rest of them. So people who are saying, oh, we can use maths, as if maths is a proof of something. We can use maths to blah, blah, blah. No, you can't. Can't change it. Can't do any of it. It's set in stone, how it looks.
So are you saying since they came up with the globe model, they had to find a way to keep people on a globe, including the vast oceans? So initially they came up with gravity, a force from the center, mass attracting mass type of deal, Newtonian. And then when Einstein came, they realized that wasn't going to fly in the age of discovery, and they made up for space-time? Is that what happened?
Well, Einstein knew they couldn't prove all that rubbish that they were spouting about. He knew that couldn't be proven. He knew how easily it was to be like things weigh more in a vacuum. So there's a problem there. Do you know what I mean? You know, that he knew that gas wasn't behaving like it would if it was under a force of gravity. So he knew there was an opening there to create a model and a description that they desperately needed. And he did. He created that for them. And they all jumped on it. And now they're all trying to get away from it because they can't prove any of that rubbish either.
Any more?
Yeah, I do. Sort of like they're trying to create an ether right now. So I know what they were going through back then. You know, the people that were fighting against this. Now they're doing the same thing with ether. Arm up, boys.
Are you saying that now they're moving to ether from space-time?
I don't know, but it seems to be that they're trying to push this thing that nobody knows what it is or can't be proven. It's just a word to me.
Yeah, but do you think that's a one-off, or do you think it's connected?
I think somehow it's connected, but flat Earth is more than space. I really do.
Well, it allows a false dichotomy argument to take place.
Go ahead, John. Expound.
Well, it's if you're both arguing about what causes the downward bias, then nobody's acknowledging there is no downward bias. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Is there
You're breaking up?
phenomenon?
You're roboting. Rejoin.
Is there a natural phenomenon?
Of course, he
I
can't
think you're
hear you
trying to
telling
say
him
so.
that he's roboting, can he?
I think he's trying to say is there a natural phenomenon being observed?
No, he's saying it there.
Yeah, he's saying
All
there
right.
is no scientific proof of gravity. There is no observed phenomenon.
I think a lot of your average Joes as well. I asked a family member the other day, why aren't the clouds being pulled down to the Earth by gravity? And they answered, well, it's too light. I said, well, you're nearly right. I said, what you should have said is less. I said, what you should have said is it's less dense. I said, then you'd be correct. I said, it's got nothing to do with gravity. So these average Joe Globe believers are actually explaining it as density, but think it's gravity.
Oh, wait. You said it's too light. We thought you said it's too white. I was going to say, that's racist.
I know.
Not too light.
That was funny. All right. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of cosmology, astronomy, or astrophysics?
Pseudoscience.
No, I mean, if you take the word astrophysics, astro, meaning like it's in the vein of astrology, astronomy, the stars, celestial objects, stuff that's not tangible, we can't get to. Can't touch the moon, can't touch the sun, can't touch the stars. Then you have the word physics, which is related to the word physical. So the term astrophysics means that you're pre-assuming a physicality to something that's not tangible, something you can't get to.
All right. So when the question is formatted any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields, why would that word hypothesis be a key word?
Well, hypothesis means that you have both an independent and dependent variable. That's your scientific hypothesis. So your dependent variable is your observed phenomenon, naturally observed phenomenon, and your independent variable is the natural cause that you propose is causing it. Then you do your hypothesis test, where you have a null hypothesis, and you have control variables. So you test your hypothesis, but they can't create a hypothesis because they can only observe a phenomenon, and that's it. So no, the answer is no, can't. They don't have one, and they're not going to have one.
So they can't manipulate the independent variable because they can't get past the observation after that, because they can't make it change or stop to see if that's what's causing the effect, correct?
Well, what is any of their independent variables? What could any of them be?
Well, all they have is observation, correct?
Yeah, same as I have and you have. Then we have better ones because they have better telescopes. But I look up at the same things they look up at. They get no closer to those than I do.
Well, when Anthony took the egg and put it in the medium of water and then added salt, he was able to vary and manipulate. These guys can't do that with the stars, correct?
Yeah, you can't do that. They're not tangible. And it's an oxymoron, the term astrophysics. Because it's a begging the question, because you're pre-assuming the outcome. You're pre-assuming that there's a physicality to things that you can't touch and can't get to.
So when they talk about black holes and dark matter, are they just making this stuff up or what?
Pseudoscience.
Yeah, they're just making it up. So how else would you do? If you can't get to it, you can't touch it, you can't manipulate your independent variable, whatever the hell that would be, then you have to just make it up. That's all you can do. The difference is some of them will admit it, but on the whole, they still call it science when it's not. It's making stuff up.
All right.
I had one guy say to me, "Well, what are we supposed to do? Stop? Isn't science supposed to progress?" Yeah, but it progresses, but not outside of the method.
Well, if you're building a house on a sand, and it just keeps sinking, do you want to keep building onto the house?
Nope.
It sure wouldn't make sense.
I was going to say something about the phenomenon, though. Like,
Go ahead.
how maybe they can observe something happening, but how are they going to describe it? Because their description is going to immediately invalidate any hypothesis they try to formulate, because they're going to put an R value in it.
If anything, they're just like, it's like fantasy, isn't it? It's like almost they've told themselves that this is definitely true, and now they can fantasize about all these possibilities. So they're sitting there just basically playing with themselves with fantasy with all this stuff. That's basically like just because they're so arrogant, they know that what they're seeing is supposed to be what they are. Now they can fantasize about all these magical things, that these little pixels that change one little pixel. Apparently that means that it's moved so much fucking. I remember listening to some astrophysicist on about it. He looked at looking into deep space, and they can tell by the one displacement of a pixel that it moves so many hundreds of thousands of miles and stuff like that. And to me, it sounds absurd, but they swear that they can break down the data and give you these answers.
Hey, Tommy. Good morning. Good to have you.
But that's just observation.
Tommy is correct. It's like, as I said, astrophysics. It's an oxymoron, because, and it's begging a question. It's because they're just going along with things they're making up because astrophysics, the physicality of what? What is it that you're claiming has physicality? Things you can't get, they can't touch. So you look straight past all that and go straight into
anything
what
in the
Tommy's
astro.
Sorry?
Just saying that word makes anything in the astro physical, pretty much.
Quick shout out to Godzilla37. He says, well, it was a good 5-year run, but it's time to shut it down. Tim's in the chat and has proven the globe. It's all over. Thank you for the super chat, Godzilla.
I want to get back to what John said in relation to what Tommy said. So, John, you were saying everything's based on the R value. If it existed, everything is based on it existing. But since it doesn't exist, it makes everything that they say of no effect. Can you expound on what you mean by that?
Well, there are calculations for this like tiny movement that you see, and then it's extrapolated out using a radial value to change it to massive distances. But without the radial value, you don't have those massive distances.
So in other words, if they didn't pre-assume they were living on the globe, what would these visuals tell them?
The same thing they tell us, nothing really. Just tell us, where we're at located 90 degrees beneath them, pretty much.
Any more on this one? All right, any evidence to the distance of the sun?
1 second. Well, this kind of fits in. Well, what I'm going to say kind of fits in with both, actually.
All right.
Because they have to use a two-way speed of light calculation within all their pre-assumptions. Everything, all the distances and sizes to their claimed planets and stars and whatever, moons, they're all based on the two-way speed of light calculation. Which, another name for the two-way speed of light calculation is Einstein's convention. Because he needed C, which is the two-way speed of light calculation, for his relativity model. Now, he does use it in E equals mc squared, and that does have some relevance, but not obviously the mass part or the speed of light part. But the point is that they're using a calculation that's based on a belief that they need, a calculation they need to have, and that's all it is. It's only a convention. You can divide that by 1632, and you won't know any difference in the real world. The only thing it changes outside of the real, it doesn't change anything in the real world. Anything we use, radar, LiDAR, speed guns for police, any of that stuff, none of that changes. Wi-Fi, nothing changes. The only thing that changes is the sizes and distances of stuff in the heliocentric model, including the sun.
I had a guy tell me that he has video of clouds being behind the sun.
Hey, before we move on from E equals mc squared, like you have two undefined variables and one convention. Like, what do you have in that equation?
Go through it each bit at a time. What does each bit mean?
You got problems in your model, that's what it means. So for example, Einstein, right, superseded Newtonian because Newtonian recognized that you needed an infinite universe, which was problematic, which gave rise to Olber's paradox, which disproved it. Newton himself recognized this, why he dismissed his theory. Then you got Einstein, which needs an ever-expanding universe, right? The problem is that it's not matching the equations because of the speed of light problem. So what do? In the back talk of their mind, certain physicists have said, well, maybe the speed of light is problematic. So they need the speed of light to explain away Newton to Einstein, but at the same time, they're saying maybe we have to throw Einstein out to explain this. But simultaneously, you got globe believers saying Newton and Einstein are both true simultaneously, even though they contradict each other.
It'd be a lot easier, wouldn't it?
The confidence that these globers have, like they scream out, "Where's your model? Where's your model?" At the same time, not having a model, like everything they say, even like when they try to answer gas pressure out of a container, the question's set up for you to fail. So it's not the answer is to bring you to a conclusion that it can't be done.
Tommy, they're using your model. They're using your model, man. That's where our model is. They're using it.
It's not even a model.
Yeah.
It's a map, flat map on a.
You got to
on a globe.
explain that to him. Oh, he knows.
It's just,
Yeah,
I
the
can't be
globe
arsed.
is based on a flat Earth. All the globe
Everything
radius
they
is-
do, everything a glober does, is completely contradictory to what they're saying. Like the moment they open the maps, it's just complete hypocrisy. So don't get used to the holding two positions at once, saying that Newton can work and it can't work. I mean, that's the shallow end of the capabilities of a glober. It really is. It's really like least you can expect of them to be contradictory.
It's because they don't really have a model. They just have a bunch of different little fairy tale stories that they've put together that sometimes mesh together, sometimes don't, and they use whatever they need to use at whatever time and whatever argument they need at that particular moment. It's it.
It's open.
That's why they sound ridiculous sometimes, because you're trying to salvage something that's unsalvageable.
Tommy, are you
Sometimes
saying
it's
that?
open, sometimes it's closed, sometimes it's not open. The open-closed system that's open.
Exactly.
Tommy, are you saying that it's acting like it's not a big surprise when a dog barks?
What do you mean?
Well, they lie. They contradict. So don't be surprised. It's like acting surprised at a dog barking. A dog barks. Globers contradict and tell lies.
Well,
Yeah,
obviously,
that's what I'm saying. Globers are just prone to be every time they open the mouth. It's a contradiction. You know, it's painful to have a conversation with them. So knowing they hold in Newton's positions that mass is actually attracting mass, and then you've got Einstein, which contradicts you, saying the effects of gravitation due to the displacement around it. You know, basically insinuating that there's no such thing as nothingness. That even the absence of something is a fabric of space time. It literally says it's a physical thing in the first place, isn't it? So, yeah, both of them are both like contradictory, but they explain things of what they observe in the world, and that's why they say, well, look, things fall, I drop something, it drops to the floor, therefore Newton's laws are true, or gravitation is true. And that's what they can't. That's their evidence that they can see it and they can feel it, and that's what convinces them in their head. But that's completely minding out like what things that the other things that go up in the air, and not looking at it objectively and isolating it properly in their minds.
Tommy, let me ask you a question. Hey, Tommy, when they say give us a model, are they under the assumption that they've actually provided us a true model of their globe?
Well, that's what you guys have discovered, that even their model that they're saying like Google Earth isn't actually a model. It's actually just a description of reality, which is all levels up flat. So, like, it looks like it's on a ball when you zoom into it, but it's not. And you guys discovered that, and I would never have known that if I never watched this show.
Brian?
Well, they contradict themselves because they don't understand what they're saying. They when one of them says an object falls down due to a force of gravity, and that's okay at the local level, and Einstein's relativity doesn't take hold until you're talking about the bigger scale out in outer space. This is what the rubbish they try to come up with, because they don't know the difference between the two. They don't know their own model. Einstein basically changed the whole heliocentric model around, and these people don't know it. Right? If they knew anything, they would know that Einstein did state or did refer to the object appearing to fall to the floor. And what he stated was that the floor, the ground, the earth, is actually rising up at 9.8 m2 meters per 9.8 m2 towards the object. The object is in a state of free fall, but it's the ground, the surface of Earth, that comes up to meet the object, not the object that goes down to meet the ground. But he also stated within his relativity model that the reason the object ever goes or appears to go to the ground, because it's only appearing to go, it's an apparent thing if you go by his description, is due, and the reason it is it's just 1 second, Tommy.
Hold on, Tommy.
Just 1 second. 1 second. This is the second part. It's because it's due to time dilation. It's that the ground is in the object's future. Now, that has absolutely nothing to do with a force attracting or pulling something to the center of anything. So they don't know what they're talking about.
It's absolutely crazy. And like at this point, you can basically say anything, and as long as you put a fucking couple of equations behind it, it can fucking make sense somehow. And it's just hilarious that people just go, "Oh well, look, it calculates, therefore it's true," not knowing that maths is like one of the most tricky sort of like truth-telling liars. Like because maths, you can calculate a lot of different numbers into different things, and they have like a lot of patterns and relationships that like one little value can change everything. And then you're putting in these formulas that you have no idea what they're doing to the numbers. And then you're saying, yeah, right, that's refracted light, or that's this and that's that. And you're describing certain behaviors to certain characteristics on the data. And you could be coming up with the wrong answers, but thinking of the right ones because the numbers are correct.
Hey, Brian, let me throw something at you. So Einstein is saying ground is in the object's future, and the ground is moving up to meet at 9.8 meters square. On their globe pseudo model, how does that work, northern and southern hemisphere?
Well, that would be Einstein's equivalence principle comes into play there, where it's they get out of that they get out of the fact that they're on a globe and that's supposed to be basically expanding out at all times to meet all falling objects, kind of stuff. That's a very basic version of it. True, with the equivalence principle, which states that that it's a mathematical way out. It's a mathematical way out of that. There's another part of it where they state that that space-time is moving in towards the Earth, and so that kind of stops the Earth from the globe Earth from expanding out the way. There's no real clarity on it because it's all total and utter nonsense. But the basics of it is that they had to come up with what's known as Einstein's equivalence principle. That he came up with that to explain how on a globe Earth it can be expanding out the way all the time, yet never expanding. And it's to do with space-time, the curvature of space-time curving in towards the globe Earth. So that would mean that it's like a kind of a count, like the air pressure outside a balloon is stopping the balloon from expanding further. It's that kind of a thing. So they use basically that kind of a thing.
Quick shout out, 100 people watching. Woohoo! Thank you very much for tuning in. Obviously, the reason there's 100 people watching is because some of you have shared the show. So, first of all, a warm welcome to all of you who've joined. But if you haven't already, please share the show. Really appreciate you who have done it already. Also, I have got a dying graphics card, so I've done a modest GoFundMe to raise a couple of £100, maybe £300 to get a replacement for what was maybe a £600 or £700 component 8 years ago. But that's served me well. It's run the show until now, but is now definitely dying on its arse, and I don't want there necessarily to be any interruption to the show. Unfortunately, I don't have a £250 spare in my back pocket to replace it now. For the now, I've cobbled it so it will fudge and run until I fulfill that GoFundMe, so it's not going to be something I'll shout out a lot, but I will occasionally share the link to my GoFundMe, and as and when I raise a couple of £100, I will just chuck it in and thank the people who've helped me to do so. So there we go. So that's my GoFundMe. I've pinned it in the live stream chat. And once again, thank you very much for joining us. Please share the show.
Chocolate, you were going to say something?
Yeah, he was going to yield the floor.
Sorry.
It's just crazy that you're saying the floor is
You're
going
a bit quiet, by the way, Tommy. Can you turn your mic up just a smidge? You're just a little bit quiet.
Check.
A little bit more.
A little bit more. Right, here we go. There we go. Check.
Perfect.
Lovely. I get myself nice, loud and clear now. Who's actually defending the globe now then? Because obviously in here they're coming in to get their arse teared. But is there anyone else left trying to defend it, or at least trying to make good arguments to why the sextant, for example, is level with the horizon? You need a straight angle, straight flat surface or a curve. Sorry for an angle. Missed up my words there.
Do you want to get something in not AI overload, or are you just feeding back your lights flashing away? I think he's not.
So the problem with the equivalence principle and this whole idea is segued into the Flat Earth Society. So we all know that the Flat Earth Society posits the idea that Earth is a disk in space, traveling upwards at 9.8 meters per second. And rightly so, we say that this is a caricature of the Flat Earth idea, and therefore it's false information. Now, or propaganda. This premise came not from flat Earth. It came from Einsteinian relativity. It's a problem with relativity, not a problem with flat Earth. And they caricature it as flat Earth to distract people from the problems with Einstein. Here's the problem. Here's the problem. If something's accelerating downwards by a force and it meets an object and it's being accelerated by said force, eventually acceleration in the mathematics will cause its force to increase, applied, right? Because it's accelerating, therefore it's constantly accelerating, therefore it's constantly increasing its force. Therefore, in order for it to stop, the object that it hits must be accelerating in the opposite direction with an equivalent amount of force to meet it. Now, anyone with common sense is going to say, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. You're telling me that an object standing still is actually accelerating upwards at 9.8 meters per second to counter the object standing still that's falling, accelerating downwards at 9.8 meters per second. So you see how this is a nonsense idea within Einsteinian relativity, and they want to pawn it off on stupid flat earthers to make the idea, which is a stupid idea, be attributed to flat earthers rather than the greatest genius of all time, Mr. Einstein himself.
Yeah, that's insane. That is. It's a slight hand read, isn't it? And this is how tricky and slippery the slope is. We have to be really like. That's where the words mean things, and you have to like formulate your arguments properly. I hear people being stopped on things that they're saying, and rather than just admitting what they're saying doesn't make sense by definition, they try to make a problem with the person who's putting out that. And that's what we get a lot of as well.
My artifacting's now made it from me just getting epilepsy to the audience getting epilepsy. If this show dies on its ass and the computer crashes, please hit the GoFundMe. Yeah, it's now reaching the audience, which is basically unacceptable.
All right, moving on. Any evidence?
Raise that money, man. Fill it up. Let's just get it to 300 quid straight away. Everyone just donate. Just do it.
I'm sure I'll reach it pretty quickly. I don't doubt people will support me because they don't want epilepsy when they're watching the stream. It's one thing for me to be pissed off with it from this position, watching my monitor flash, but when it starts actually making it onto the stream, it's like, oh, that's gonna drive the audience away because nobody wants to see that. It's like terrible audio. Nobody notices when the picture's just boring with the slideshow going past, but when it starts flashing, people notice and go, oh, I don't want to deal with this. Same with if the audio's a bit quiet, people might turn it up, but if it's distorted to all hell and scratchy and distorted and overloading mics and things, people do I know for a fact, I tune out and I see other people doing it around me when they listen to something and go, whoa, that sounds horrible. So it's one of those, man. It's just not, I've got to do something about it, and I've been stressing for about a month, maybe a month and a half over this, thinking it's me, thinking I've done something wrong, and it's just not. It's a failing component. I bashed the fans up to full, and it solved it for like 10 minutes. I was like, yeah, just leave the fans on full. Yeah, I can hear it, and hopefully it's not making it through to the recording, but at least it works. But even now with the fans on full, it's still dying. I'm like, oh, God, please, just stay long enough for the live show. We've only got 15 minutes left, so hopefully it'll not die before the live show ends.
Any evidence of graphic card going? I'm sorry. Any evidence of self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth?
You can read off of that.
Hold on. The fact that Nathan's graphic card is on the fritz, if you apply some math to that, you can prove a molten iron core.
I'm not sure why it's not cooling down if it's going up at 9.8 meters squared.
I did use that sort of similar example when I was talking about, I think I used my CPU as opposed to GPU, but I was like, well, my clock speed goes up and down on my CPU, and it's a man-made gizmo. Now, admittedly, that example isn't great because it's supposed to do that. But with the example of, say, a man-made gizmo like a gyroscope, they're saying, wow, it shouldn't be drifting. Should just be maintaining rigidity in space. The cage is drifting around it at 15 degrees an hour. What's going on? It's like, crap gyro. It's just a man-made gyro. The principle of a gyro is it spins. Now, if it's drifting, there's got to be something moving around it. Now, if you're saying that it's moving when it shouldn't be moving, then either Earth's turning underneath, as they precisely claim it should be, in which case we'd also notice the shortened flight times that we would benefit from if that was the case. Yeah? if Earth's turning underneath stuff that's not attached? Yeah, we don't notice that. So in which case, what? Should we reascribe a new presumed cause of this drifting gyro? Like ether turn? No, it's a man-made gizmo. Why it does it is for you to figure out as a piece of technology, not for you to ascribe heavenly bodies and their effects to it. That's absurd. It's not a naturally occurring phenomenon, it's a piece of technology. Likewise, my CPU going up and down in clock speed, although it's not deviating from its actual designed processes, is still something that I could say, well, it's doing something I don't understand. Obviously the ether. No, it's a piece of technology. It's not a natural phenomenon.
Since you brought that up, can you answer this question about Coriolis? Two people on the globe model at different latitudes, same non-inertial frame, claimed Coriolis in parentheses. Coriolis doesn't need to leave the ground, as I have showed. I don't know where she showed it.
What?
I think she's got a misconception on Coriolis. This is Rachel 00000.
Doesn't have to leave the ground. Yeah, it does. Coriolis is described with two separate reference frames. One is non-inertial. Now, the reason it's described as non-inertial is because you're part of the reference frame. So imagine a roundabout with you on it. Now, if you look at the floorboards of the roundabout as you're turning on it, as far as your perception is concerned, you're not moving. The ground you're standing on, the roundabout, as it turns, from your perception looking at the roundabout you're standing on, the rail that you're holding, the footing that you've got, none of that's moving. It is non-inertial. Now, because it is in fact spinning, even though from your perception it isn't, you're part of it. Anything that's separate to that spinning reference frame will appear to drift. So if you toss a ball over the top of the roundabout, you look up, see the ball, and go, wow, look at that curved path the ball took. Well, it didn't actually take a curved path. It took a straight path, but looked like it curved because you were turning beneath it. Now, that requires the ball to be in a separate reference frame to you turning beneath it for you to see it seem to take a curved path. If it's attached with you, it's doing the same thing you are.
Sounds like just like another okey doke to try to fool people who don't really understand Coriolis to say, oh, well, look, this ball is on the same reference frame that I'm on, so look, there's no apparent drift, so that's why we don't see drift. Even though
Exactly.
we all know you gotta have the object be in a different reference frame. It's an okey doke.
Holy
Come on,
shit,
Chocolate.
somebody's already donated £250 to my GoFundMe.
Nice.
Awesome.
Shout out to
awesome.
Jamal Hicks, who within 10 minutes of me starting the GoFundMe has mean that I can order a GPU from Amazon as soon as the show's ended. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it.
People enjoy this show, Nathan.
Is it a coincidence that at this time, that's when Simon Dan Clown shows up on your pictures? Wait, whose reference frames did I ruin?
Synchronicity, baby.
Well, that's a very good point. I mean, that requires some explanation. So why would Simon Dan be telling me that my reference frames are ruined? Well, I'll tell you why. Because I understand them and can explain them. Therefore, he ascribes them to me like they're mine. I understand and can explain the globe's claim of a real effect that we can induce on a roundabout called Coriolis. That effect we can induce on a roundabout called Coriolis with two reference frames is claimed to occur on globe Earth. Well, if it's claimed to occur, we would see it occur. So what do we do as flat earthers? Well, we point out that it doesn't occur. And when we point out that the Coriolis effect the globe claims will occur doesn't occur, someone like Dan will come along and tell me we wouldn't expect to see Coriolis drift. You and your reference frames you claim we should see drift with, no I don't, are ruined. Fundamentally demonstrating A, that he doesn't understand the effect the globe Earth is claiming, which is two separate reference frames and a drift observed from the non-inertial one claimed to be globe Earth. Well, that's two reference frames and a drift in a second reference frame, Dan. But because we don't experience it, and I point out that we don't experience it, he tells me we wouldn't expect to experience it because it isn't happening, completely flying in the face of the original globe claim, and embarrassingly telling me that not my globe, reference frames are ruined. Yet the globe reference frames, with 2 of them claiming drift will occur, they're ruined, Dan, because we don't have the effect. You know it and I know it. That's why you're telling me my reference frames, actually globe reference frames, are ruined. Idiot.
All right,
Hold on.
I
The problem is,
chased him up on Twitter, Nathan. Everybody else should do this as well. I should go onto Twitter because there's all the people. What's his name? Simon Dan, and what's the other guy's name? Katz and all that. They're on Twitter, and they tweet that. Like they tweeted out, "Oh, your reference range is ruined." And I noticed this argument, and he says, "Can anyone ask me a question?" I'll reply, and I replied to one of his requests, asking him to address that crucial point between your proposition to whose reference frames are they? Now we know that they're his reference frames, so you've made that quite clear, Nathan, and I know. But it's still like he refuses to debate, but then sits on a big, massive account from doing literally just mocking people like yourself who get. How's he got 400,000 followers or his millions? I don't even know how much he's got now. I haven't checked since the last checked, but somebody to come on the team and just mock people that have actually discovered a lot of things, such as Nathan and QE, and to go so known, and then so that means Nathan's known everywhere because he's all over everyone's profile, and there's hundreds of thousands of people all sitting there laughing at the things. But it's literally his own argument there. His reference frames. It's just crazy that nobody can pick this up. It's insane that nobody's managed to, like, a bunch of people haven't gone, hang on here. Can we see what he means with his reference frames? Yeah, you want about your own here, mate? Because it's absurd that they still managed to everybody's been observing this and still can't get it around their heads. It's mad. It's a crazy world.
Because they don't understand. Listen, they don't understand it. It's happening in chat right now. Listen, Rachie says putting a rolling ball on a merry-go-round proves it wrong.
Sorry, say again. Putting a ball on a merry-go-round.
Rolling it,
that's
not
one
throwing
reference frame.
That's what I'm saying. They're not understanding it.
See, if you put a ball on a merry-go-round and roll it, it will actually take a curved path because of the inertia from the reference frame that it's experiencing as it moves along the turning reference frame. But that's not Coriolis effect. So Coriolis effect is... Coriolis effect
I thought
is...
you're done.
Coriolis effect is not actual drift. So the question becomes, if you're describing not actual or apparent deviation, then is the ball apparently deviating or actually deviating? No, it is actually, if you roll it along a roundabout moving in a curved path, it is actually doing that. Well, Coriolis is an apparent, not actual deflection. Ball travels in a straight line. You see it seem to curve from your position beneath.
Literally called by the globe side as an illusion. The illusion of something taking a curved path, because what you're actually doing is you're on a reference frame that's moving.
It's crazy when you're arguing to people, you're saying, well, it behaves as if it's not it's in a contained system. When an airplane travels, it doesn't deviate from the ground. The ground isn't spinning in any particular direction. Every air balloon, if it goes up in the air, behaves as if it's in a closed system. Now look at the clouds. The clouds are like 300 miles away or 200 miles away. I'm looking at these clouds, and the rainforest is all level and flat. But then they're expecting like 50 miles in between all that flat rainforest. There's a boat that's covered by the curvature of the Earth. So which one is it? So I'm looking at hundreds of miles of flat clouds, and then you're telling me boats are disappearing for halfway between that because of the curvature. Now, if it was level with the floor, like the gravitational effect that you're saying, we should see the curve that the boat's gone over in the clouds, but we don't see that. We just see the clouds converge into the horizon like the sun and everything else does. So, there's a few things that could be one way, and we see in a complete different way.
John, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, before you can assert a non-inertial turning reference frame, you're going to need to have an axis of rotation. Well, that's been debunked. Like, everything's moot after that.
2 more questions left. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
If you could, we'd have to change the definition of gas pressure.
Things operate different in outer space.
You have to believe that gas molecules eventually lose the struggle over gravitational effects and fall trickling back down to Earth, falling in a perfect synchronous stance as it rotates around the fucking itself, whilst traveling through different volumes of low pressure gas system through the solar system. Will spin on its axis, and while this is happening, the air is stuck to the ball like it's in a container when it's behaving exactly like it's contained, but it isn't. It's actually open. It's fucking crazy. It's absolutely crazy what they're saying. And like, think of it. They're flying in their spaceship is a flying open gas pressure open container thing. It literally is the one thing that it can't be proven or demonstrated, and that's their entire flying spinning ball, their spaceship ball. An open gas pressurized system that spins with air around it in a perfect synchronous as the Earth rotation, giving it the illusion that nothing is moving inside it. You know, there's no gas molecules flicking off because of the centrifugal forces of the rotation of the Earth into space. No, there's none of that happening. It's just like, you know, it trickles back down. Gravity pulls it back. Super gravity, just when you need it most, just where we can't see it, where it's high up in the atmosphere for 80 miles, where you can't detect it or see it. You have to believe that it comes back down. You have to believe. Fucking crazy people.
Tommy. Not Professor Dave says that they have mathematical equations that prove all of this. He told that to what's his name, David Weiss.
So mathematical equations prove something.
A molecule in motion remains in motion. Let's add to them on external force. Now, gravity is not an external force. So apparently, it's always at play. So if it's always at play, and then all of a sudden you counteract that force by putting a molecule in motion against that force, it's always in play. Fundamentally, there is no external force at play here. So the gas molecule should just travel out into space, and entropy should increase, and we should have no atmosphere. But for some reason, we've got an atmosphere, so it's only right to consume that, you know, we've got containment, especially because we've got gas pressure, because it's the only logical conclusion to come to. Anything else is insanity.
Tommy, it gets worse. They say gas pressure, they say gravity's not a force at all.
Before you go on, when was an object in motion stays in motion indefinitely until it's acted on by an outside force but proven?
The only time that could happen would be within a vacuum situation, which would beg the question of a sky.
Yeah, but my point is this. How do we know of a certainty that things that are in motion just don't eventually stop for no reason whatsoever that has to do with any external force? We don't. We just take it as an axiom on face value, intuitively, and just assume it.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like something that has no viscosity, you know, like a superfluid. They say that if you pushed off from a wall while being in a superfluid, you would never stop because there's no viscosity. You know, a vacuum would be similar, where there'd be no friction, as they put it. There's no gas to slow you down. There's no, you know, that's what they try and say. But there's no way of proving this. It's just kind of like that's just the basis of what they say, you know.
Hang on, Brian. I was told we have solar winds.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we have solid gas clouds or gas giants. You know, this is what the kind of rubbish they're trying to tell us. Solid gas giants. You know, it's the people who make up this stuff and follow it. They never refer to other parts of their model. It's always. Yeah, that's true, isn't it? That's what they say. Solid. They say the sun is. It's a solid gas joint. That's what some of these people try to say it is.
The gas is so compressed. Apparently, the gas is so compressed that it'll crush any sort of device that goes into Jupiter. That's what they say, isn't it? So basically, it's like the gas is still, you can walk through it, but it can become so dense that it'll crush you, like the pressure of going under deep water. That's what they say. But,
all right, go on, finish up, AI.
Just my point is that there's a lot of these quote-unquote laws or actions that people appeal to, which are true within the space which we inhabit that we can access, at least by our experience. However, we don't know what things do after they leave our local area. We have no idea. And so what they're trying to do is say what happens here happens everywhere, because we need a unified theory of the universe, because that must be the way it is, because that's the way we like it. And one of the reasons why they like it that way is a very famous quote, which is this: it's not that science forces us to create an apparatus of a phenomenal world that focuses on materialistic explanations alone. We are a priori committed to this philosophy because we cannot allow a divine foot in the door. So yes, the majority of these axioms were based on philosophical choices, not science.
Okay, last question. Any evidence you can have a curved baseline while acquiring an elevation angle?
Define an angle again.
Two straight lines meeting at a common point, creating a vertex.
So straight lines then, not curved line.
Yeah, by definition.
Oh, okay. So then no.
It's a level. It's a level, not curved and straight. Straight level. straight level curve. Okay, it's a straight level curve.
I mean, is this the part when a glober shows up and tells us there's no such things as straight lines? Is that where we're at, or what? Any globers in here?
With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to the guy who smashed the GoFundMe link. I'm just about to order a £300 graphics card, which has elated me, so I won't be getting epilepsy whilst doing these intros, outros, and running the live show. So, a massive thank you to you. And, of course, another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering Stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
When Nathan settles down a bit, the Globers usually pipe up here.
Yeah, so maybe if we could get her to come on the show. I'm trying to get her to come on the show.
Globiolus. That's what you're saying, Brian. Because they're anti-flat.
Globiolus, right? Yeah, Globiolus. That's what so she's confused from what she's hearing here and what she's hearing from them. So
Globiolus.
Yeah, she doesn't know. Hilarious. Yeah, Globiolus. Yeah, that's what it's not the Coriolis effect. It's the Globiolus force.
Hey, Tommy, while I have you here and nothing's being discussed, I could have won a lot of money if I had money to bet, because I knew Canelo was going to lose that fight. I knew it. I didn't have the money to put the bet on it.
Listen, I found it so strange that we had like a Japanese-Russian win that fight. Like, this is the size of him.
What is he?
A Japanese Russian. It's like the Russians have like got a Japanese connection or something. That's what it looks like to me. And he's like an absolute monster. And how is it that Russians come and take the most prestigious titles, the number one pound for pound king in boxing, out of nowhere? This giant Japanese Russian comes and wins the title in a mechanical like tank, like a giant tank. It was I don't know what's going on with the world. It's like a mad stage, and then you got the other titles. The Ukrainian beat the other champion for his world titles. You got Ukraine, and you've got fucking Russia.
Yeah,
holding all the titles in all the prestigious titles.
Connection.
It's really
how'd that guy beat Joshua?
Connection.
Hang on, Tommy. We got Black Russian, a White Russian. Now we got a drink called the Japanese Russian.
That's a good one.
Japanese Russian now, mate. He's a serious dude as well. He's a 6 foot looking monster, built like a fucking like a goddess. He's like a fucking he's a beast. He controlled Canelo. I mean, and now him versus Golovkin is going to be interesting. But the guy he's rated number 1, and I can see why. He's got literally all the tools in the book.
He throws some nice combinations, Tommy.
Yeah, he was really good. Yeah, had a really good jab, really good range control. Good, he had everything. I thought that would be a really difficult fight to take because he just systematically break you down over 12 rounds. And whatever pace you out, anyway, he was toying with Canelo pretty much. He just toying with Canelo. He wasn't really trying to hurt Canelo, just toying with him. And that was, that's difficult to do, to make Canelo look average like that on the ropes like he did. Canelo's a very special individual.
Did it have anything to do with the weight that he put on? And that's my last question to you. Because he went up in weight. Did that have anything to do with it? Did he lose power, Canelo?
I mean, obviously, a bit more than true because that guy is substantially bigger than him. But Canelo's been able to do that with other opponents because of his vast amount of experience. But like I said, this guy was just a bit too big, too strong, and too clever. He's an exception. I've never seen anybody in 20 fights fight like an absolute supreme world champion. Like he's only had 20 fights. Like, where's he come from? Where's this machine came from, and why is it destroying Canelo? But what the hell is that?
All right, AI. You were about to say something.
He's beaten up a world champion that's dethroned 8.
Dude, Mike Tyson was beating people up when he was 12.
Oh gosh. AI was trying to say something.
Sorry, come.
I said AI was trying to say something.
I was just saying it's appropriate that a Japanese Russian takes on what is the nationality of the fighter? The other fighter?
Mexican.
The Mexican. Yeah.
What's that?
Mexican. You got a ginger Mexican,
Okay, that's fine, but so right now we got the whole Ukrainian thing going on with Russia, and Japan have both commented on the imperialistic nature of the Western world in the past. Now, it would be more apropos if they beat a Western fighter, but obviously Mexico is Western, sort of. But, it's just that thing, like Japan and Russia, they're both, quote unquote, against American imperialism from the past that affected their nation, especially in light of NATO expansion. So it makes sense.
I see what you're saying, AI. I got you. The Western world is passing away.
They've just took all the titles basically, and right now they're in crisis. It just seems a bit really weird because I've watched boxing a long time, and this is quite strange that we have such like Canelo Alvarez being dominated in such a way by somebody that's had such little experience, and in such a fashion. He's a machine. He's an absolute machine. Look at the size of him. I don't see anyone beating him. I mean, he'll do the same to Anthony Joshua. He'll do the same to him versus Tyson Fury would be very interesting. The Geezer's a problem.
Yeah, so you bring up a good point, which is this. Okay, so you're saying that this other guy has so much experience, right? And that's true. Fighting a bunch of pussies.
Nah, but I think
Think about it for a second. Us Russians, us Japanese Russian superhumans have let you guys pretend that you know how to fight each other and watched you little pussies battle it out. Now we're here to show you who's boss. That's another kind of allusion there to true power. It's like, yes, you guys are all fighting each other, but you're a bunch of weaklings. If we enter the ring, you'd get destroyed.
Yeah, but he did. See, that knocks it out because he fought Golovkin twice. I don't think he beat him both times, but they did give it to Canelo.
Alvarez has had a hard right. That's what I was about to say. I was a stick up to. He's got a very good record. He started off very young. He was he always had a lot of talent from early, and he's just gone from strength to strength. His career has been fantastic. I mean, he's had one loss to Floyd Mayweather, which was a great learning curve for him. And even in this fight, it was a great fight. I mean, I could watch that fight over and over and over. It was so good to watch. I mean, Canelo to have Canelo really against it. It still shows how good Canelo is because. Realistically, this guy shouldn't be going 12 rounds with him. If Canelo was the size difference all the way around, Canelo would stop him in the first few rounds like he does his normal opponents. Though he's got that size advantage. The reason Canelo needs to take on bigger opponents is because he's so good. So it's all right. This Bert Villa's done a real good job with Canelo, toyed with him. But yeah, there is some big guys in the heavyweight division, and when somebody like when we got to see, we've got a lot of people that are going to throw big punches on him and see how he responds to them beating Canelo is a smaller guy, isn't it? How does Bivol do against? How does this Russian Japanese do against somebody that can box back? Because we've seen the Europeans, and they are very robotic and very predictable. Now, with a Japanese twist, I think it's going to be much more interesting because one of the things that Japanese did lack was the physicality. Now with Russian, like a Russian Jap, it's like they've got the physicality and the we know Japanese people are brilliant when it comes to combat. So it's going to be interesting to see how he goes in the mix with some fighters. But
yeah, what we need is a Ukrainian boxer to step up. And then we'll really have a geopolitical scene.
We have got Ukrainians. We've had the Klitschko brothers dominate for 10 years. We've got Lofmanchenko. You got there's a load of Ukrainian fighters that are still doing great. You've got the other one. What's the other guy's name? Would it be Andy Joshua?
Usyk.
Usyk. That's the one. Yeah, Usyk. I'm Phil. He's amazing. He's a great character, a great champion. So Ukraine's got some really good fighters too.
Well, in the absence of Globers, we got our boxing roundup. Anyone want to take on baseball?
Good job.
That was a nice sports update.
Well,
it's
I
funny
think
though
it was
because
gravity that caused him to
there's been these
lose.
models in boxing. What's funny because I got these models in boxing. I've been saying this guy in a boxer, he's a model, and people laugh at me when I say that. But it's like I'm calling them a model. They're not real boxers. They're modeling boxing. They're doing the skipping, they're doing all the flexing of the muscles, doing all the walking back and forwards, but they're not boxers. Do you know what I mean? They're not really boxers, and it's like they're just models. And then when I go in there and flat smack them, I just tear through the model. So look, it's the fucking model. It's not real. It's funny.
I'm on cloud 9 right now, fellas. My brother's a trainer, and he and his fighter, Quentin Randall, they just won the WBC silver belt at welterweight. Not this last weekend, but the previous. So I'm pretty proud of my brother right now. Quentin Randall, if you want to put some money down on him, Neil, he's a winner.
Shout out to your brother.
Quentin Randall?
Yeah, Quentin Randall out of Houston. He was on the United States national team. He represented the United States abroad. He had a really good amateur career, and he's really special, man.
Well, back to flat Earth. It's all taking place on a flat Earth, not a spinning water ball. That's the point.
What spinning water ball?
I don't know. The one that they tell us we're on right now.
Who that?
The one my son had a breakdown about.
Oh.
He even went on to say that the Earth has to be curved for celestial navigation to work.
Wow.
Should have corrected him. Said not curved, son, flat, not curved.
He was having such a breakdown. My heart actually broke for him. I didn't even say nothing. I was like, son, put your headphones on.
That's all they have to say, though, Neil. That's what, I don't mean to point it at your son, but that's the same thing from each one of them. The Earth needs to be a globe for celestial navigation to work. Then you go and ask them, okay then, right, do it without a tangent plane. And they can't. The very first step of what they need to do is to have a tangent plane that's big enough for whatever distance that's measured. So if your distance is 3,000 miles, they need a 3,000 miles flat plane. So they only ever have that claim. It's like everything goes down due to gravity. It's just a claim. All they have is claims. They have no support for any of this. They can never show any of this. It's just claims. That's all they ever had and all they ever will have.
But I still think people are confused. because they belie themselves in their language, where they speak about the Earth being spherical versus a globe model projection being utilized. Those are vastly two different things. Using a globe model projection of a flat Earth to reverse engineer your coordinates is not the same as the Earth being a globe. Those are categorically two different propositions. So even if they say we use a globe projection to navigate, they still haven't proven that the Earth itself, the object in question, is a globe or a sphere of any kind. They've just proven that a projection that's derived can be useful. Those are two different things, and they'll admit themselves, even some people within this server, that all models are useful, quote unquote, but that doesn't mean they're true.
I think that's why they focus so much on asking us, where is our model? Because you can't talk about the actual Earth, right? I had Glover snap at me because I tell them I don't live on a model. I'm not talking about a model. We're talking about Earth. They're like, no, we need a model. Well, why do you need a model? Is that because that's the only place your globe exists in a model? I mean, it's ridiculous.
I just want to bring clarity to navigation. All navigation tools are angle measuring devices. As we've seen, you need a baseline for that. Prior to the tools, they were using their fingers, their fist to get 1 degree, 5 degrees, 10 degrees, the span of their hands as they open it up. And they would use the horizon and they would overlap their hands until they saw Polaris. So everything was based on the horizon and the angular distance above the horizon. And they were using fingers and their arms until the tools were invented, which made it a lot easier. They even, the Arabs had the Kamal, and it was an instrument with, as the star was going away and decreasing in altitude, they would tie a knot and then another knot, and they would say each knot represented so many degrees, and they would just hold that up, and that way they can just use that. Everything is based on an angle. And what's an angle? Anybody?
An angle is a baseline and a hypotenuse of a triangle.
2 straight lines.
And would they never, even in their method, as they think they're on a globe, ever use it to get the height of the star as in distance? They only use it for the angular measurement through the perspective, meaning this is how high it is above the horizon, the angular measurement is this, and we're going to ascribe 60 nautical miles. And Brian's already gone over this. They had to do that because in reality, Polaris at 90 degrees on the horizon is 5,400 nautical miles, and they had to have everything match that.
Yeah, but it's 5,400 minutes of degree. So that means they couldn't use Statuette miles, whether if Statuette miles were around. They couldn't use them. They had to use, they had to come up with a by 60 system. And that means that they had to give a real Earth surface distance to each minute of degree. So that means they didn't have to measure anything. Do you know what I mean? They just had to go, right, well, that's 5,400 minutes of degree. That means it's 5,400, we'll call them nautical miles. You know, they didn't have to measure anything. Any measurements of a nautical mile were taken later on by conversion from a Statuette mile, a kilometer, blah, blah, blah. But there was no measurement of it. It was like 5,400 minutes of degree. They could have called them surface minutes if they wanted. It would have worked out better. Then people wouldn't be getting confused between the word Statuette mile and the term Statuette mile and nautical mile. The word mile wouldn't be in there. It could be surface minutes.
Well, they went to the Babylonian sexagesimal system, right?
Yeah, Babylonian 60. Yeah, that's the system they use.
Exactly.
Because they're using degrees. That's what because that's all based on that.
And that was based.
Sorry, go on.
Go on. No, okay, I'll go on. Yeah, and that was based on a circle, not a sphere.
Yeah, 360 degrees. You know, because the sextant is 1/6 of a circle. Sextant, 1/6 of a circle. That's what it's referencing. That's why it references 5,400 minutes of degree. That's why there's 5,400 nautical miles. They just hijacked the arc scale of the sextant or protractor, which is a curve, and tried to claim, through the use of the celestial sphere model, that the surface of Earth was curved. Just the craziness and stupidity of that. I can't put a number on it. It's not mathematical. You couldn't maths it. It's the number of. It's too massive.
And the origin, Brian, I'm sorry, I have to jump in. And the origin, Brian, is from the equatorial plane of their model, a flat surface, and where it meets the arc of the protractor, they make that the surface of the Earth. And that's where they come up with, okay, now we got to figure out that. So let's create spherical tree for that, even though all of that is projected from the actual measurement from the flat base.
By the way, did you see that Flat Earth Banjo made a video about you guys and what's being discussed over here? I don't know if you knew about it or not.
Yeah, I saw it, and I left a comment there, and he pinned my comment to the top.
Pinned a comment?
Which was, he pinned my comment, yeah.
When I went and watched it, the comments were turned off.
Well, he might have turned them off at some point because he's probably getting a lot of flack off the borders. But I put up a comment and he pinned my comment. Because what he did is he was talking about triangles, but he was using triangles as in internally. He was right in the way he used them because he was showing like aircraft and different things under different circumstances, but he didn't show it using. He didn't use the internal system like an angular size change system referring to celestial navigation. And I just kind of said his video was good and I enjoyed it, and I just corrected him on that point. Is the difference between an elevation angle. Somebody has the mic open. There's a difference between an elevation angle and an angular size change. I hear a scratching there for some reason.
AI overload.
Sorry, your mic is open. But yeah, there's a difference between an elevation angle and an angular size measurement. Because I can take a 40-degree angle, right, to my kitchen table, right, or I can take a 40-degree angle to a building that's 20 stories high, right, and I can use that angle if I know the height of my kitchen table. The exact height of my kitchen table. Taking that angle, I can then use the internal. Calculate using the internals of that angle, right, of that triangle to get a distance to the table. If I know the distance from the 20-story building, I can use that 40-degree angle to the top of the building to determine the height of the building. But that's not what you do with an elevation angle. Elevation angle, you have a baseline, you have a hypotenuse, and you have the opposite of the triangle. The hypotenuse, let's say, goes to 40 degrees, but your distance, right, you never determine your distance or calculate your distance using the internals. Your distance comes from the zenith angle, which is the remainder from 90. So 40 from 90 is 50. That would mean if you have a 40-degree elevation angle, that means your distance to the object is always going to be 50 times 60 nautical miles, which is going to be 3,000 nautical miles. It's never going to be changed. That's the difference. A 40-degree elevation angle will always be a 3,000 nautical mile distance, straight line distance. That never changes. But when you're using the internals of a triangle, then it can be anything. It can be a kitchen table, it can be a building, it can be a mountain. It doesn't matter. The distances can change. The sizes can change. It doesn't change anything. Or it changes constantly depending on the circumstances. So I just corrected him on that because the ballers keep on trying to equivocate. Most of the time it's because they're idiots and they don't know what they're talking about. And I mean that, right? But sometimes it's just purely out of just dishonesty. Prototype.
Well, let me add to that, Brian, because the elevation angle is for the angular. It's never for the distance. That's why they subtract from 90 to get the co-altitude, the zenith angle, and that gives you the distance, which matches it. So you're right.
Yeah, because you never use the internals of the triangle to gain a distance with an elevation angle. So a 40-degree elevation angle will mean you have a 50-degree zenith angle. And then that zenith angle, you take that, which is 50, and you multiply it by 60 nautical miles to get your co-altitude zenith distance. That's how it works. It's so ridiculous. I have Sean Hawkins the past 2 days, right? I know he's like low-hanging fruit, but I have to bring him up because he's so well known. I have him for the past 2 days not able to understand how you gain a distance using a triangle in an elevation angle in celestial navigation. He doesn't understand it. He thinks that you have to know the height of the star to know what your distance would be on a flat Earth, because he doesn't understand you don't use the internals. And I've answered him 3 or 4 different ways, and he just literally cannot understand it. I think it's kind of too simplistic for some of them, because I know with him he's not lying. He literally does not understand.
Well, you also proved that diverging zeniths don't work, and we've also shown pictures from their own celestial book showing the box with 2 parallel zeniths, straight down with the box, even on each one. So it's like, how do they say it could only work on the globe Earth when they keep showing us 90-degree box symbols?
Well, the overall number one way to destroy anything they have to say or we don't even have to go to the celestial sphere model or anything. It comes down to circle of equal altitude, right? You ask them, circle of equal altitude, right? Does that have a straight radius, right? If they say yeah, then it can't work on a globe, right? You can't, because number one, it's a circle, so it's 2D. The globe is 3D, right? Number one. But number two, that radius will always be shorter than the arc that resides above it, which if they place that circle on a globe, that radius line will always be shorter. If it's a straight line, which radius lines are, will always be shorter in distance than the arc that resides above it. So that it's a chord line at that point. So the chord is always shorter than the arc that resides above it, right? So none of the coordinates are going to match. Now, if they start getting tricky and trying to say it's a curved radius, what they don't understand is that won't match either, because then their radius line is curved, so it's long, so the circle is not going to match that. Because if they try and claim a curved radius, then how are they going to have a circle that matches it? Because if your radius is 3,000 miles, right, and it's a straight, right, and it's a real radius, a straight radius, then that's going to be a 6,000 mile diameter, and then that 6 by 3.14, I don't know what that would be, I'd have to put it out the calculator, would create your circle, right? But if you're claiming a curved radius, there's 3,000 miles, but that, right, and you have that on the surface of your globe, right, what that will be is it will be too big for the circle. The circle that will be drawn around it, if you're trying to claim that, if one of them tries to claim a curve, because they have, I've had 3 or 4 well-known ballers, Mr. Sensible, I think Ruhif, several others, they've all claimed a curved radius. So a curved radius to a circle, for a start, that doesn't exist, number one. But secondly, a curved radius to a circle means that the circle is going to be smaller than the radius. How does that work? Because the radius has a distance, a length.
They really said curved radius?
Yeah, this is going back months ago. They've claimed curved radius. They had to. They had no choice.
Well, that sounds like a spiral to me.
It sounds like stupidity and madness of the highest order.
A spiral.
That's what it sounds like to me. Yeah.
A downwards, inward spiral.
Yeah. No, when they have to claim a curved radius. But it doesn't work, because if your radius is 3,000 miles and it's curved, a curved radius, then the circle that they're talking about putting on a globe, onto their globe, right, which they can't do because it's nonsense, because it's 2D and the globe is 3D, but they will do it, then that 3,000 mile curved radius is not going to match the circle.
Hey, when you
How is it going to match the circle? It's not going to match. The circle is going to be too small for the radius.
When you're done on this, I got something about ether real quick. Whenever you're done with that.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a curved radius to begin with. It's half of a diameter, basically, and it's from a circle, from the origin point. And it's on their model, which we've dissected, it's using flat Earth measurements, which is the equatorial plane. You don't need that part below and that curved on top whatsoever. They're just bastardizing the protractor and say you live on the arc surface of the protractor. But no one's taking measurements from there. Even they don't take measurements from there.
Well, just before Neil goes, if you had a 3,000 mile long curved radius like these people to be claiming along the surface of the globe, then the actual radius of the circle that you're connecting that to might be 2,500 nautical miles, not 3,000. You know what I mean? That's how ridiculous it is. They could have 500 nautical miles of a bigger radius than the circle they're going to have eventually. It's mind-boggling stupidity. Go on, Neil.
Yeah, but
Okay.
they're still not getting the relationship between tangents and triangles properly. So if anyone is available to look in the chat, I'm talking about the Discord chat, there's a clip there from Dr. Bob, the pseudoscience guy, trying to explain to flat earthers about tangents on spheres. And then there's a quote there from an actual math professor showing the actual relationship between a triangle and the alleged tangent. I don't know if you guys could play that clip. It's approximately 15 seconds long, or if that even matters for any kind of copyright violation, even though it is.
No, that'll be fine.
For satire, commentary.
Can someone post it in
right
Master
at
B?
that timestamp?
Is someone posting it in Master B so Nathan can play it?
When you got that? Damn, do I gotta go get it? Hold on.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second.
I tagged
follows
Quantum
upon
Race, but he
chocolate
never
once
does any
again.
work around.
Chocolate, sorry to say you have to leave your reference frame to go get it, but please do it.
Without leaving your pants.
That's right. He can leave his reference frame without leaving his reference frame.
Or his pants.
Yeah, and the pictures that I posted too are relevant because they're from the math professors explaining the trigonometric relationship between a tangent and a circle.
I never thought we'd get to the point in this discussion where we'd have to explain to them how triangles are used to measure spheres.
Dude, are you kidding me? We literally explained to them that surface properties and shapes are different categories. You know, for example, let's play it while he's getting that. Smooth, flat, rough,
Aspects.
circle, sphere, cube.
Shapes.
Now, kids, let's talk about colors.
To Master B, Nathan.
Thank you. Just while I've got the mic for a second, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry for all the flashing. I can't do anything about it. Hopefully I'll order a new graphics card by the end of the day, thanks to Jamal Hicks. Right, do you just want me to... What is it, just click and go? Oh, okay.
It's right from that timestamp. And then it runs for about 15 seconds, then you'll have to stop it. You'll know when to stop it.
There is no timestamp with what Chocolate sent, unfortunately.
Oh, my goodness.
Hopefully, if you just press play, it'll start. Because I just directly copied the link that he posted.
Nah, unfortunately not. What was the timestamp? You'll have to give it me, I'm afraid, AI.
Yeah, anyway, so
12:51.
Let's take a moment to talk about how timestamps work on Discord. Whenever you post one on Discord, it will post a link and then it will post an embed link. More often than not, the embed link will not take you to the timestamp. You need to copy the text-only link.
12:51.
12:51. Okay, brilliant.
Nope.
If two bowling balls touch each other at one point, do they share a tangent?
Yes. That's an affirmative.
Now, this is a very telling question, and that's why I asked it. One of the big things that's going around in the flat earth right now is that trigonometry is the study of triangles exclusively. You can't have a triangle on a sphere. You can draw a triangle inside of a circle was the answer that we got in the last episode. But I find it very telling that you can use a trigonometric function like tangent on a sphere, and they seem to know that very well. This is a common problem in the science-denying community.
Is that as much as you wanted?
Wow.
That was cute.
Science denying with science
Bunch of
denying.
gaslighting nonsense.
Yeah, what an idiot.
Well, what he's saying,
he just spent.
He's trying to separate trigonometric functions that are derived from triangles from spheres and say that they're not used. And so trigonometry, right, is used on circles. The problem is that you look at those math professor little quotes there that I posted, and they clearly show a triangle in a circle, and that the relationship between the triangle and the circle comes from the triangle, not the circle. So Dr. Bob is wrong.
He also doesn't know what science is. When he's talking about mathematics, and then goes on to claim that people in the science-denying community claim, what are you talking about? It's like talking about how you fix a gearbox, and then people in the cooking community deny this all the time.
I remember Rumpus saying something about two spheres too. I remember Rumpus saying that a long time ago. Touching two spheres together, it gives you a tangent.
Well, that's.
Very quickly. Just quickly. Where is the dependent variable in a math equation?
There isn't one. It's physics. It's not maths.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
why I said it's just nonsense. What do you mean the science-denying community? It's like my example stands. Somebody fixes a gearbox and then turns around and says, people in the cooking community deny this sort of stuff all the time.
But it didn't make any sense because he didn't actually prove a point even as he was doing that. He didn't prove it works on a sphere. He just moved the argument. He moved the goalpost to the circle thing, which is not a sphere. So the entire thing was just pointless.
Yeah, a tangent to a circle. That's basically all you have to say. Yeah, that's part of geometry. Who cares? How does that prove a globe? Do you know what I mean? It's total nonsense.
Yeah,
He's told that
triangulation doesn't work on a sphere, but it does because it works in a circle. That's his argument. That's it.
Yeah, it's from the center.
I just love I love the whole science denying thing, because that's cute. Because y'all used to tell us about science all the time. What does science do now, according to the globe side?
Fair enough.
It doesn't prove anything.
Fair enough, but keep in mind that
We
this
deny
guy,
that which does not prove anything.
According to them, it doesn't prove anything. That's the only purpose of science, to prove things.
No,
fair enough. We need to talk
From
about
their
denying
perspective,
before we
which
move
makes
on,
it
because this guy, Dr. Bob, denies circles because he thinks that circles have curvilinear radius.
Did he say that again? A what? Curvilinear? A curve?
Dr. Bob believes that circles have curvilinear radius.
Curvilinear radius? So not a
Yes.
straight radius?
In other words, he
Radius.
thinks that hemispheric domes are circles.
No.
Also, if they have infinite sides, then what two sides are they touching on?
Sorry, and this is science, is it?
The science of shapes, yeah.
Hold on a second. Like, he's talking about getting an angle to a curved surface or to a curved baseline. He's not addressing getting an angle from a curved baseline.
Yeah, he's only talking about a tangent to a curve, tangent to a circle.
Yeah, tangent to a curved surface isn't the same as an angle from a curved surface, is John's point.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm saying.
Total straw man.
That's what I said a few minutes.
His own point.
That's what I said a few minutes ago. It's tangent to a circle. Who cares? What's that got to do? How does that prove a globe? The whole point is there is no angle possible off of a curved surface. That is that. You have to put a tangent to it to create an angle, and then that tangent and angle has literally no relation to the surface underneath it.
Right,
Zero.
and where'd you get that tangent, Bob? Quote, Bob the science guy, I don't have one. End quote. That would be a globe Earth tangent he doesn't have. He was asked 14 times on a live show. And when he returned after making an appointment, he answered, I don't have one. So even if they could wangle their way into making us accept that they can draw a tangent, that would be a straight line to a curved surface, it makes absolutely no difference when you're trying to acquire an angle from a baseline, which can't be done from a curve. Just reiterating John's point for the third time, because that is the point when they're drawing out these straight lines and saying, look, I can get a straight line to meet the curve of a circle. That's fascinating. What circle? Because we're making an angle off a tangent. No, we're not. We're making it off a baseline. That's how you're doing celestial navigation. You're measuring an angle, an elevation angle. That's just two straight lines, nothing to do with any tangent. Furthermore, if you do it in your diagram, as opposed to with a measuring tool standing on the ground, where are you getting that straight line? All lines in your model, according to you, are bent, and the horizon isn't a geometric tangent point. It hasn't been since 2020. Hey, talking to you, Rufy. Hope you're listening. Yeah? Painful, huh?
Well, even more to that, the idea that you can draw a tangent to the horizon is contradictory to the celestial sphere model.
So the guy that was saying that was basically presenting a non sequitur.
Well, it's a non sequitur.
That Bob Rooney doesn't know what a circle is. Did
I'm pretty
we
sure
forget all about that?
I'm pretty sure Al Bruni knows what a circle is.
Say again.
I'm pretty sure Al Booby Baruni does know what a circle is.
Yeah, Bob Rooney. It's in Master B. Just for a reminder.
Yeah, that's Bob Rooney, not Al Rooney.
Oh.
Bob, answer one question for me, right? Is a circle two-dimensional or three-dimensional?
Excuse me?
Is a circle two-dimensional or three-dimensional?
A circle is a section of a sphere.
What the hell did you just say?
A circle is a section of a sphere.
Is a circle two-dimensional?
A circle is just simply. I'm not here to define geometric terms.
Yeah, because you don't know them, because you're a fucking idiot.
Wow. Ryan, I'm not here to define geometric terms.
Yeah,
for
you're
you.
a fucking idiot. Yeah, that's right. You don't know geometry at all.
Is a circle a two-dimensional or a three-dimensional object?
You can have circles on both.
Are you high right now?
You can have circles on both.
Oh, yeah!
You can have circles on both. A circle is a section of a sphere. You can have circles on both.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
Ba 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 Baruni.
Ba 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 Baruni.
Ba Baruni. You are so loony. Ba Rooney. You got me laughing and a rolling, smirking and a scoffing. Ba Rooney, ba 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 ba.
I'm going to have to stop that because I'll get a copyright strike. It's that good.
That was hilarious.
Who was that other young-sounding bloke singing with you? Is that like your grandson or something?
Grandson?
My
How old do you think
daughter.
he is?
His daughter.
Oh, daughter. Okay, sorry. I didn't mean anything with that.
So again, I mean, you're dealing with somebody that doesn't know what a circle is. So I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, I thought you meant Al Baruni when you said Bobberoonie. Al Bobberoonie is Bob the Science Guy.
Well, with Bob's what he thinks science is, and it doesn't prove anything. How can you deny something that's not proven if he believes that nonsense?
Right, it becomes completely meaningless. It's like, oh, how dare you deny something that we claim doesn't prove anything? How dare you?
Maybe
So
he's not
we're
up
going
to
to
date with the
evaluate.
rest of the numpties.
Are we going to evaluate his acumen in other circumstances after he's a grown man that doesn't know what a circle is? And a bonus, he's apparently got a PhD in something. I don't know, numpty dipshittery or something, but he's a grown adult that doesn't know what a circle is.
It's a section of a sphere.
If he can't handle a circle, then I doubt he can handle circumstances, since the origin of that word.
I don't know why, if he's going to go to the Beach Boys, he didn't ask help from Rhonda.
Who's Rhonda?
Get her out of my heart.
Help me, Rhonda. Help me, Rhonda.
I would suggest you plug your show, but I'm glad your PC woes are fixed just as mine begin. Well, I say begin. Yeah. I've had them for ages.
Yeah, it's a test tomorrow. I'm not counting any chickens, if you know what I mean.
I'm more annoyed that I spent an entire day on it. Do you know what I mean? Because that I will never get back, which frustrates me more than anything. Got broken
Looks
ribs.
like you're hooked up.
I was outside with the air compressor in agony, blowing out this stupid computer. Because I knew at some point, because I suspected it was what I've done a GoFundMe for. I'm like, if I just do a GoFundMe, it's just rude because you're just saying, give me money, I'll just chuck money in it. It's like, no, I want to put out a couple of videos that say, maybe I can fix this, maybe I can resolve this problem. And if it means physical effort on my part, then so be it. Or mental effort in terms of tapping the keyboard to figure out the problem. Well, I did both. And I actually thought I'd won, so I thought I'd got it fixed. Fuming mad I was when I turned it on this morning, and not only did it carry on flashing as I was setting up the show, everything else started breaking as well. I was like, oh my God, this doesn't get anywhere. I was like telling my wife, I was like, for the first time in ages, love, everything works like it should. I'm so glad I spent a day on it. Does it hell?
Never say that out loud. You know what happens now.
Yep. Foolish. Spoke too soon.
As a technical expert, I've computers, hacked into them, and realized the problem that you're both having. The problem is you don't seem to understand that technology only works on a globe, and that's why it's not functioning for you.
Yeah, that's right. I exist on a flat Earth, therefore my electronics have a finite life. Where's Wally told me in a chat when I was like, I was questioning whether or not it could be the CPU or what it could be. This is, I don't know, a few days back. And he said that CPUs don't wear out. I'm like, what? So CPUs don't wear out? I'm like, everything electronics got a finite life without exception. It's like, if they didn't wear out, people would be building houses out of CPUs. What are you talking? What are you on about? Doesn't wear out. Everything wears out.
I did mention earlier that your technical woes proves a molten iron core, so
well, it just
I was about there.
What I was going to add was, it just, after the fact, although I wasn't sharp enough to say this to him in the chat at the time, it's like, so even when it comes to consumer electronics, you deny entropy.
Basically, yes. Oh, Nathan's a flat earther, and he said his CPU just ran out, so he's got to be wrong. CPUs don't wear out.
Yeah, man, it's science. So you must have been running low on science then, Nathan.
Just break down.
Speaking of science, can I ask my question now?
Hang on. Just break down, Nathan. Get a curved motherboard. Come on, just do it.
I hope it's not the CPU, because that would involve replacing the motherboard. And once you're at that stage, you're essentially replacing the entirety of the PC. So I'm hoping, God, I hope I just slot in a graphics card and life continues as normal.
Hey, fair enough. 10th man is not wrong. Okay, check this out, though. The problem is that curved motherboards detach from the CPU and graphics unit, which was the problem with the Xbox 360 original run. So no, curving things doesn't fix the problem.
Is that the red ring of death?
Yes, the infamous red ring of death was caused by thermal expansion of the board, which separated it from the graphics by breaking the solder joints because the graphic card thing was flat, right? And it required the motherboard to be flat so that they had a good bond. And if you curve one or the other, that creates additional space, which you then must compensate for by either having spontaneous growth of solder joints or they break. Those are your options. You know, kind of like the globe model.
Well,
where
if
you
your
need to
motherboard's
prove
going to bend,
the gap,
you know,
the straight line and the curved baseline that you this.
That was two things that used to amuse me. I used to be a pawnbroker quite a number of years ago now, but I used to manage a pawnbroker, and people would come in with Xbox 360s. Now, obviously, they were broken, but they didn't appreciate that we had full testing facilities there and then, and you'd come up to the counter with your Xbox. I went, I don't know, it'd take me 3 minutes to wire it up and check if it was working, and you turn it on and the red ring would come on and you go, yeah, that's fucked. Piss off. What do you think I'm going to buy that? Now, bearing in mind that that was something that they probably spent several £100s on. The same thing, which is even worse in my opinion, this used to amuse me every time. People would come in with a Wii. Remember the Wii with the motion controller? And they'd do the same thing, and you train not to give them a price until you've tested it and you can actually offer them the price. You know, you don't say, oh, well, I potentially might give you X for it if it works. You don't do that. You just test it and then give them a price. Anyway, you test their Wii, and then they go, how much will you give me for it? And you go, £3. They're like, you've got to be joking. It cost £170. £3? What are you talking about? Like, that's how much we buy them for, £3. And you're like, you're not going to give me £3. That's a joke. It's an insult. And then you'd literally turn them 90 degrees to the glass cabinet next to them where they were on sale for £10. You could buy one. Did you order it? Woohoo! My wife's just ordered a graphics card. So she had some vouchers, £50 exactly, from what was it you did to get the £50? Work. She says work. She got some vouchers for doing work. And the guy gave me £250. The graphics card I've ordered is £300. So I'm basically not out of pocket thanks to my wife and her hard work and a generous donor. But that's ordered now, so hopefully it'll come tomorrow, next day from Amazon. I've ordered it from Amazon because if it doesn't fix the problem, I'll just take it straight out and put it back in again and refund that guy his money and go, it's not that. But I hope not. Hopefully it'll just fix the bloody problem.
Shout out to Mrs. Oakley.
That you were hold on a second. I thought you said at first you were a porn broker.
Porn. How do you say porn?
That's what I heard too, but I knew better than that.
I knew somebody was going to say that.
Porn. I say it the same as porn. It just sounds the same when I say it.
It sounds like
porn
it
to
too.
you guys.
Say again?
I said it sounds like porn broker again.
Those two words come out of my mouth that sound exactly the same.
How do you say it, John?
Pawn broker versus porn broker. Get it?
Yeah, I say porn too. I'm sorry. Porn broker.
Porn. That's what you want me to say, but it sounds too Americanized when I say it that way.
Well, I can guarantee you there'll be at least one video put out by an anti-flat earther trying to attack your character for being a porn broker tomorrow.
Yeah. They can. Oh, no, they can. I have no issue with that. That was at my lowest. I would say that was by far the lowest lull of my employment, managing a pawnbroker. You know, at one point I had 50 to 100 staff when I was a recruitment consultant. Very responsible. I had a sharp suit, a lot of employees. I've been a rep travelling around the world, and I've had some very good, what I'd consider good jobs that you'd be proud to tell someone about. Not when I was a pawn broker. I felt scummy the whole time because it's just it's not a nice thing, because you kind of bleeding dry the poorest people. And one of the reasons I ended up leaving, albeit on not particularly great terms, was because of the payday loans, and it was when they were in the news. And I started managing the store just as much more strict regulations came in for payday loans, which would work on something like 5,000% APR. Horrendous. And they were crippling, absolutely crippling. Unsecured. So I've got a couple of funny stories, because the process that they took you through after the regulations came in essentially meant that nobody would qualify unless you did not need one, which essentially meant that the owner wanted me to just break the rules. But he was like, if it goes wrong and they don't pay back, they just disappear and defunct on their payment, it'll come out of your salary. So I was like, well, you can be damn sure I'll be following every one of those rules to the absolute letter, because I'm not having that happen. But that meant that nobody who wanted a payday loan ever got one from me, apart from one guy. And he met all the criteria and then defaulted on the loan and just laughed at me when I phoned him up. But there we go. He'd followed every... I'd crossed every I and dotted every T, so it didn't come out of my salary. Not that it would have been reasonable that he did, but that's how he operated. It's a pawn broker. Pawn. Whatever you say. But yeah, so I never did them because I just thought they were just disgusting. Morally, I couldn't bring myself to do them. And I was quite content in the fact that they'd stiffened up the rules to the point where nobody who would ever be in a position to be asking for one, you know, that would be the worst move they could make, but they'd be still asking because they needed cash for something. Just horrible. Payday loans were evil.
Yeah, but stuff that you bring, listen, when you buy something, that's not what it's worth when you go to resell it. Even when I was in other businesses and you go to a fence with something brand new, they only give you, I think, 40% of what it really is worth.
Oh, if you're lucky.
You got something for $200. Yeah, exactly. If you're lucky. I bring something that in the store is $200. You get $40, $50 for it. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, they don't want
because you're
to,
dealing
or I, as the store manager, did not want to resell your item. That wasn't the idea. The idea is you come in with an item of a value, let's say it's £100 or $100 item, and you turn that item into £20. The idea being you come back a couple of days later and give me £25 and then just take it away again. That's the ideal. You don't want to sell it. The last thing you want to do is sell it because then you've got to find space for it and you've got to find a customer for it.
You're talking about putting something down and then coming back, let's say 2 or 3 weeks later or 6 months, whatever they give, and you pay a little extra on it to get it back. So you're buying your own thing back, really.
Yes, that's in an ideal world. However, what actually happens and what is exploited by the owners of these stores is the idea of repawning or rolling over, as they used to call it. The idea being then that you come back in and however long the period is, let's say it's a week, you come back in and pay £25, but then just immediately pawn it again for 20. In other words, there's a £5 transactional profit that takes place, but nothing actually happens other than some paperwork. And the idea is, and although it didn't happen in my store, one of the same named stores owned by the same guy in a different part of the world, or the country, I went in and I looked at some of their reports for some of their customers, and you'd see people who'd bring in like a TV set that might have cost them £500 when it was new, but isn't, you know, there was TVs on the display floor, on the showroom floor for £50, £60 that were the same. And they might have got £100 for it. But all they would do is, month in, month out, lose £20 to £30 on this TV set for years and years. And don't get me wrong, occasionally they'd buy it back out again and take it home and enjoy it for a week, and then immediately need cash and bring it back to the store and do the same thing over again. And you'd look at their books and you'd be like, this TV's cost you thousands. Absolutely insane.
Can I get to my question now?
Yeah, this has been almost... I'm glad the live show was run by 10th. Me fiddling with buttons. There was nothing flat earthy about the pre-show, 4 minutes of it. And this after show's been about boxing, graphics cards. What else have we had? Oh, we did have... Oh, thank God for Quantum Eraser bringing up Bob Rooney.
Well, this has to do with Ether.
Okay, I don't know if there's any Ether experts in, but feel free.
It says that the concept of ether was used in several theories to explain several natural phenomena, such as the traveling of light and gravity. Has it been? What is it?
Gravity? Really?
would that concept have been explained in scientific theories or just theories colloquially? Already then.
Wasn't it used as like in like mathematical theorems that to describe like interactions? Like,
but what is it though?
well, like in I think Maxwell's mechanics, where he's describing it, like I'll have to look into it. I ain't gonna say anything about it for sure.
This crap.
I got it. It says here that according to ancient and medieval science, ether, also known as the fifth element or quintessence, is the material that fills the region of the universe beyond the terrestrial sphere. There you have it. There
Now
is
it's
ether.
the fifth element. Wow.
Terrestrial sphere. What a bunch of bullshit.
Bro,
What's
I'm
medieval
straight up,
science?
It's the fifth element, bro. I'm done.
In the alchemist age, when that stuff, like pre-chemistry, they did not freaking think it was a globe. Total horseshit that they programmed in afterward. Total horseshit.
What's medieval science, though?
Maybe Bruce Willis could tell us what the fifth element is.
I hated that movie,
Alchemists
by the way.
did not believe in globe Earth. That's total nonsense.
Related to that, can anyone tell me what ether has to do with flat Earth?
It's used as a false dichotomy at the table of bullshit we have served to us when we arrive, so that it can offer itself as a false dichotomy for two things: gravity and Coriolis effect. So it's, I don't want to say an appetizer, it's more of a main meal. But yeah, it's offered up on the table of bullshit, so they've got a false dichotomy to fight us on. And nothing other than that. It doesn't benefit us one bit. There's no point making the claim. It doesn't serve any use. It doesn't offer us any assistance in bettering humanity. In relation to the ground itself, absolutely zero relation, because it's nothing to do with the ground. So nothing, to answer your question in the first instance. Everything in terms of how it's useful to our opponents.
What it does do, sort of, by accident, is bind a lot of like interesting little man-made derived phenomena, right, together, and basically put that in people's face, like, oh, look at this little mystery, look at that, and look at that. And then comes the problem, mainly, it's caused by ether, right? That's the problem. But it does actually highlight a whole bunch of interesting little man-made phenomena. So,
like magnetism and all of that stuff they talk about. Go learn about magnetism, and then you'll understand what ether
but
is.
it's not magnetism. It's like what happens with magnetism. That's where they start pointing, oh, look at this weird phenomena that is happening with that. That's because of the ether, right? So it's reification all the way, but it does basically highlight a lot of interesting little technical things that are out there that do puzzle the mind. And then they reify it with ether.
And what's ether again?
Yeah, but in the nature of
they don't know.
In the nature of how it applies to the flat Earth globe Earth, it's all just logical nonsense. Because neither shape or surface property is contingent upon either gravity or any energetic medium of any kind. They're just not logically necessary to each other. So either way you argue, you're just arguing something that has no bearing. For example, quote unquote gravity makes things fall inward to a spinning space ball versus quote unquote unidirectional gravity makes things fall to a flat Earth. I mean, it's irrelevant. Things can fall or move. Let's just say things can move in relationship to another object, regardless of the shape of that object.
True. Why don't they use that word, inward? Because on their model, that's how everything falls, right? Everything falls inward.
They know, man. They know that we all experience upwards and downwards generally. So they have to use those words because that's what we experience. Kind of like when they have to concede that the Earth is locally flat because they know everybody experiences it as flat. It's like, yes, we know that everything falls down and the Earth is obviously observably flat, but I want to promise you that it's actually curved and things are falling inwards. Trust me, I have a degree that I haven't finished yet, but I'm just going to tell you I'm already a physicist, even though I'm only a freshman and I haven't even, solidified my room in the dorm yet.
So it's all
Just
about putting your model.
Just sidebar, 1 second. Is Nathan there? Hello?
Yes, I am here. When I've got GPU stuff up on screen, while this show's still running, I still don't want it flashing, so I'm fiddling with things and seeing what issues are actually at fault. Anyway, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, got a question for you. Just like small sidebar. Ballbusters, the next Ballbusters, it won't be this Saturday. Too many things happening this Saturday, man. But for the next one, I heard you talking about that you wanted to do the science presentations again. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, that's been suggested many times.
Okay.
The thing I thought you were going to say about you brought up a reference that had now been taken off the list, so to speak. And I said, did you want to cover that in general, i.e. the fact that, various people will allude to getting stuff taken away, and then it is, and other various things that are taken from sites that we reference that get memory hold, basically.
Yeah, I tracked it down. It's been happening on and off again for the past 7 years, especially. This one surprised me, though, because Occidental College, that's a pretty substantial university, and Frank Lambert, like I said, he's a legend with the laws of thermodynamics, specifically the second law, that it's just gone. The whole site is gone. But herein lies the problem with the numpties that have taken it down. I might call Occidental College and say, what the hell is your problem, dudes? Now, Dr. Lambert is deceased. Somewhat recently. I think it was 2018. If I'm not mistaken, I have to check. But I find it quite shocking that it just disappeared. The problem herein lies that many people in academia have cited that page, and when it disappears, that means all their bibliographies are going to show accordingly. So that creates a problem, a big problem. So what I'm doing is, before I call them, I'm going to wait for a couple weeks to see if it just doesn't magically appear again. So that's the story behind that. But yeah, they take stuff down, what are you going to do? It's always on the web. Right? All you can do is use the Wayback Machine. It still kind of pisses me off.
That's why I thought it'd be worth covering.
Could you go over the citation, or do you want to save that for Ballbusters?
No, it's a pretty substantial citation that we've gone over many, many times from Frank Lambert. It's dealing with entropy and in a vacuum and entropy, right? And it's pretty straightforward, and it just kills the friggin' fairy tale dead quick. Right? I've talked about it and posted it many times. The citation is, and this is from Frank Lambert, entropy is simple qualitatively. Used to be Occidental College, but like I said, it's gone now. But I found it, don't worry. It says gas expansion into a vacuum, the mixing of ideal gases or liquids, diffusion, effusion, colligative effects, and osmosis, each fundamentally involves an increase in entropy due to increased dispersion of energy with no change in total energy in the case of ideal substances due to a greater number of microstates for the particular system involved. That is the death knell for the spinning ball space monkey religion, right? It's over. But that is gone now from Occidental College. However, from the Journal of Chemical Education, I found it in the Journal of Chemical Education. So whoever took that down, if it was nefarious, you're friggin' screwed. That is all.
Cool. No, well worth mentioning.
I find it very strange that a citation such as that from such an obviously prominent person in the history of science would just be taken down. It's like as if somebody contacted those people and had it taken down, like they've done, like these type of people have done in the past.
And how many times have you heard QE use that? That's the funny part, right?
Yeah, because they want to hope that when he uses it, that they can't find it. So that, and because it's not up anymore, it means it's not valid. So that means they're basically, I'm speculating here because I don't know, but if that is the case, that would mean that they are stating that Frank Lampard is not valid. No, sorry, not Frank Lampard. Lambert is not valid.
Frank Lampard's
yeah,
a footballer from the 90s.
Look out.
Yeah, sorry.
Say
Yeah. Lambert, I said. I corrected it to Lambert.
Yeah, Frank Lambert. He's a legend with second law thermodynamics. I heard of him at university back in the day. I've used that. It's not just a citation. It's a whole web page. I mean, it was pretty long, right? It goes in great detail with entropy. So it wasn't just the citation that's gone. However, like I said, I found that I posted the citation to you guys, so just in case.
Thanks.
Well, are they trying to go back to the outmoded descriptor using order and chaos? Is that what?
No, I don't know what they're trying to do. I'm just saying it was the whole site was deleted. So
I think
that's
just
all. That's all it was. It happened. It's happened before.
Itself. Sorry.
It's happened before. I was just surprised at the
entropy.
level here, right? Because you're not just dealing with some, average Joe. He was a professor emeritus at Occidental College. So I may give them a call when I get some time and I think about it. It doesn't really matter anyway. Gone. But like I said, it's been cited in other works, right? That's the same thing that happened to Professor Wolfs up there at the University of Rochester. Remember that, Professor Wolfs? You tried to pull that maneuver when somebody called you and told you to take that shit down because flat earthers were using it against him, right? So he took it down. The problem was that many works since then have cited his work, and I knew what was going to happen, right? So I just sat back and waited. It took about 3 or 4 weeks, and then all of a sudden magically popped back up again. Like a clown.
Yeah. Oh, it's not so good. Yeah. We'll happily memory hole that because flat earthers are using it. Oh, what's that? Lots of people. It's not just flat earthers. It's just information that people were using then.
Quick,
yeah. I plastered M. Scott Veach with that thing and a whole bunch of other ballers, right? And he even told me, M. Scott Veach, that crayon munching knuckle dragger, called Professor Wolfs, right? He called him because, see, we were in conversation. Professor Wolf's secretary and I were in conversation because I had called, ironically, just a few weeks prior because I had some questions, not questions. I was just going to put him up against the wall politely. I wasn't going to tear him. I wasn't tearing strips off him, but I was going to systematically, because I had went through his site. There was a lot of truth on his site, a lot of things that were correct. But then again, there were a lot of things that were incorrect. So I wanted to go over the things that were incorrect with him. And I set an appointment up with him through his secretary because all of a sudden these guys are on vacation when I call. Just turns out that way. And I called her back. I said, it was like 2 or 3 weeks later. I said, well, where's Professor Wolfs? I thought he was going to contact me. I gave him the message a couple times. That's what she said. And then all of a sudden, boom, the site was down. And during that time, M. Scott Veach and I got into a little discussion, text discussion, when he said, well, that he was going, I should have screenshotted this. I usually do that, but I didn't this time. That he was going to make some phone calls. So apparently in the interim between me calling Wolfs and this little ordeal, M. Scott Veach had called him. So Professor Wolfs wasn't going to talk to me, flat earther. Told him I was flat earther, and the flat earthers were using it against us, or against the ballers, obviously, because all of a sudden it disappeared. So there you go.
Can you imagine the inter-peer conversations in the background about that? For example, somebody else who's of clout decides to call this guy and say, "Hey, why can't I access this, and why is it no longer in my linked bibliography?" And he's like, "Well, a scared Glober called me and told me that some big scary flat earther was using it in flat earth arguments." Right? And then the other guy says, "Are you retarded?"
I was just going to say, imagine having to call the people that are on your own side to tell them to take citations down and change shit around because people are using that shit against you.
Or the guy on the phone goes, "Who the hell are you telling me to take this down?" "The name's Veach, son of an astronaut. Get that shit down."
Well, if a flat earther uses a citation, does that mean that the citation is no longer valid? Because that's the real problem, isn't it?
Oh, it's the
oh man
equivalent of sticking your head in the sand or going la 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 la. You're like, somebody comes up to you and goes, "Well, look, you're contracted to do it," and they tear the contract up in your face and go, "Not anymore." You go, no, you are still contracted to do this work. Just tearing the one that I've got as a copy now doesn't make any difference.
Guys,
Well,
I've
hold on a
scattered
second.
the server logs from Telecom system, and I have the phone conversation transcript. So what M. Scott Veach actually told this guy is, "Listen here, Professor Dude. If they prove the Earth is flat, the internet itself will no longer work. Therefore, it's your duty to mankind to take this down." Thank you. Sign.
That's right. This technology itself depends on everybody understanding that the Earth is globe. The two are intrinsically tied. If computers, then globe Earth, and vice versa. So without computers, globe Earth fails to exist. But without globe Earth, the computers also fail to exist. Do you see this logic? You've got to maintain globe Earth. Get rid of this shit.
Well, just seriously for a sec. Hold on a second before we make any more jokes about it. Couldn't like a student who was using that as a works cited page get in trouble for citing a source that didn't exist?
Yeah.
That's not
Are you
cool.
asking me?
Yes.
No, I have no details about that. All of a sudden, if many people cite the reference in their bibliography or works cited pages, not just students, I mean professionals, and people start saying, "Hey, listen, this citation is not referenced appropriate," he's not going to get in trouble, right?
That's not what he's saying. He's saying if you're a student and you were handing in a paper, and then you came to check the reference, and when you went to check it, it wasn't there. Well, that wouldn't look good, would it?
No.
So when he said get in trouble, that's what I perceived him to mean by get in trouble, as in, would it affect your mark? Because you're not going to get a smack on the bum now, are you? But you might find that the person who's looking at it goes, "Well, no, that didn't actually have a reference." And you're like, "Yeah, it did. I put a link. Yeah, it didn't go anywhere."
Yeah, that's what I meant.
But how did you get in trouble for that?
I know in my degree system, if you did that, you'd get marks off, period.
That's what I'm saying. That's what, well, not what I'm saying. Although I did make that point about 2 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, but how could you get in trouble for that? If you reference that, if you put down that citation while it was up, and then you hand in your paper, and then all of a sudden it's gone, how are you in trouble for that?
Well, if it's no longer there, how does
you'd
the
have to
professor
provide proof post hoc of the date line of when it occurred.
Hold on. No, how is the professor going to know that it existed, and why is he going to take the time to ask you to prove it? He's just going to give you a mark against you.
So they're like, where did it come from? Did I just make it up? Like, come on, that's
yeah, that doesn't really work, you know, because people could just be typing out any old crappy hyperlink, put HTTPS at the beginning.
Can I make a point?
Yeah,
about
for example, an astute Glober who's a scholar and a craftsman, right, and an entrepreneur and a gardener might decide to create a paper called Proving the Earth is a Sphere. Bibliography, http://google.com.
Google.com.
Google is an acceptable citation and reference. Thank you. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. A point I want to make, and this is for not just the Globers, but this in particular, in a lot of ways, is actually more pointed, not more, but every bit as much pointed towards all these flat earthers who want to attack QE's constant pushing of the truth about what science is and is not, right? And what they call narrow, things like the scientific method, all these things, what they call narrow. Well, there's an advert that has come on to my YouTube videos. Not my videos, but videos I'm listening to. And it's from that organization, PETA, right? PETA, the animal rights organization. And I don't know, I'm not really shilling for them. I don't know how honest they are or they're not, but they seem to have obviously an interest in animal welfare. Now, what this advert is it's the sound of owls screeching, and it sounds like they're screeching in pain. And what it's about is there's something happening in Johns Hopkins University where they're doing something to owls, where they are having owls clamped in one position or something for sometimes up to 12 hours, they say, at a time. I don't know how. This is just what.
Hold on. I know where this is going. Is this going to be birds humping natural phenomena?
No. What they're doing, right, is they're doing something that involves cutting into their skulls, and then they're shooting light or sound, or light and sound, definitely light is involved from what they say, into the heads of the owls. Now, obviously, it's very, very distressing for the owls, and they supposedly, according to the advert, they kill the owls afterwards. Now, that is done under the guise of science. Now, whatever nefarious ideas they have, whatever they say is the reason they're doing this, whatever they say they're researching by doing this, even if they're sorry to say, that they're looking for a way to save human lives in the future, that, whatever it is they're doing, and other things like that, where animals are being basically treated completely unfairly and unjustly and inhumanely, that has all been done under the remit of science. So if you're going to state that you can make up whatever version of science you want, and you can just come up with any old rubbish and call it science, ether, or gravity, or any other rubbish, if you are supporting that complete and utter rubbish and what is not science, then technically you are supporting these people who are using the same term, science, to treat animals completely unfairly. The reason these people get away with doing this, regardless of why they say they're doing it, right? To do that and to be involved in stuff like that means that you have more, as far as I'm concerned, you have more than the lives of fellow humans invested in what you're doing. You have some other ideas where you don't care what happens with the animals. You just want to find out whatever you want to find out for whatever the hell it is the end product is going to be. That's all done under the guise of science.
In the name of science.
It's an outrage, Brian. You should really...
Wait 1 second.
Go on.
Sorry. Where do we naturally observe owls or any other animals being clamped to things or having parts of them while they're awake, having things done to them, all this unnatural stuff? Where do we observe this as a natural phenomenon?
We don't. You don't call it science. Just call it what it is. It's cooking.
No, but it's not. It's cruelty. The point is, Nathan. But the point is, Nathan, is that you shouldn't make light of this, because this is part of what this is pseudoscience rubbish. They use the term science to get away with doing this nonsense. It's not science. We don't naturally observe any of this stuff. This is what they use. So anyone out there, or whether it be globe busters or anyone else, or anyone on the globe side, as long as you're supporting pseudoscience and trying to claim it as science, these kind of people will get away with doing stuff like that. So when you're at home petting your dog or your cat or whatever it is, or whatever, remember that science, under the guise of science, they're taking animals just like your pet dog or whatever, and they're doing things to these animals unfairly and inhumanely under that very guise.
Well, that's why it's imperative that QE goes over the scientific method again and what it's all about.
We will, I'm sure, on Ballbusters. But, you know, we've seen it before with Timote and how it's scientifically proven to give you the shiniest hair, and tyres scientifically proven to give you the best grip. And in this case, you know, scientifically proven to have the best owl gravy in their pie. It's just an outrage. It's not science.
No, but you see the point I'm making.
Definitely.
It's like animal cruelty is what it is, and it's under the guise of science.
And in the interest of balance, there are other animal welfare fundraising outfits available. But with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ Panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the PayPal link, joining as a member, smashing the GoFundMe link and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Deep shit into it.